refunds, so we'll take a look at that. Meanwhile, the IRS has released its latest update on the tax season, so we'll take a look at how things are progressing compared to last year, and a major change that will potentially speed up the reviews and even audits for some taxpayers this year. So we'll take a look at who's impacted as a result, and we'll check in on the remaining tax return backlog from last year. Now, starting with the latest update from the IRS on the current progress of this tax season, as 26.6 million tax returns have been processed so far this year out of 28.8 million that were filed. So the IRS is processing at a rate of 92% this year compared to 88% at this point last year. Already over 13 million refunds have been issued this year versus 8.9 million at this point last year. Also, those who have already filed their taxes is up over 13% compared to this point last year. So it seems many are filing earlier based on what happened last year. Now, moving on to those tax refunds, as the IRS will release two significant batches of tax refunds this week on Wednesday the 22nd and Thursday the 23rd, as confirmed by the refund status results seen here. Now, we normally do not see back-to-back days of refunds like this, but with the massive amount of refunds on hold previously due to the PATH Act, the IRS computer system is not able to release those in a single batch, so that is why we're seeing two separate batches of refunds being issued. A number of reviewers have indicated they've in fact already received their refunds. However, that will ultimately depend on your bank and their processing guidelines. It is widely expected most who are part of this batch will receive that refund by the batch date of the 22nd or 23rd. However, if you do not receive it and are part of this refund batch, you will need to wait up until February 28th before initiating a payment trace with the IRS, either by phone or by completing IRS Form 3911. We're also hearing from viewers that Where's My Refund status results are still not updating, in some cases even after receiving that tax refund in their bank account. And again, that is going to be expected for some. We saw numerous times last year where refund status results were not being updated in a timely manner, often displaying the message like you see at the bottom left of the screen that the tax return is still being processed. As of this recording, there's still some viewers who are encountering the PATH Act message when checking their refund status results, and this is as a result of the IRS system not properly updating. Again, the PATH Act has been lifted on all tax returns and no longer applies to anyone. If you claimed EITC or CTC and are still waiting, that is because the IRS is still processing your tax return. We continue to advise viewers not to rely on those results, but rather their tax transcripts. Now, questions coming in about updates to those tax transcripts, and it will depend on the last two digits of your transcript cycle code, which can be found on the same line as code 150 as seen here. If your cycle code ends in 01 through 04, that represents a daily account, which is updated by the IRS 4 days a week, with Tuesday seeing the biggest update. While if your code ends in 05, that will most likely represent a weekly account, which is updated once a week on Friday mornings. However, there's still some of you who are not seeing any updates and are encountering the letters NA in place of the 2022 year, as seen here, as well as a blank transcript saying no tax return filed. This will be expected for some, especially paper tax return filers, as we continue to see those tax returns uploaded to the IRS master file in batches daily. The IRS does advise to wait up until a month to see an update to those transcripts after filing, and the delay does not automatically indicate there's an issue with your return. Last year, the IRS sent out tens of millions of notices to taxpayers, a number of which required a response in order for the continued processing of tax returns and issuing of refunds, and we're already seeing that happen again this year. In the past, if you received one of a handful of notices requesting documentation, you were either forced to fax it to the IRS or send it by mail, which could take months for them to even open and review, delaying your refunds. But now the IRS has announced that recipients of 9 letters, including the CP05A and CP75A notice, can now upload the documents being requested online to the IRS, which is going to speed up document review processing times, audits, and ultimately refund processing as a result. We've already heard from several viewers who claimed either EITC or CTC that are now under audit as a result, some who had previously had to go through an audit in recent years. On the notice itself, it will contain a link and code needed to upload such documents and generally is only valid for 30 days from the date of the notice being issued, so it is time sensitive. Last year, over 40% of those under audit claiming EITC never even responded to documentation requests, which in the end saw them disqualified from receiving EITC as a result. Finally, for those of you still waiting on last year's tax refunds, you're still among the over a million who are waiting on their refunds, not including the over 400,000 amended return filers. It does appear the paper return backlog has been almost cleared out. However, the last million plus of e-file returns, which have been marked for further review and processing, still remain. The IRS has not provided a timeline in which the backlog will be completed as of this recording. However, we're continuing